So I'm going to ask Joseph to give us a 5-minute overview of the latest situation in the Philippines, particularly the recent Supreme Court ruling about the transfer amount and implications on devolution. And then I'm going to go to Darius for the situation in Indonesia. Joseph, over to you.
Good morning. Can you see my screen? Is it okay?
Yes, it's great.
Yeah,
thanks.
Okay. Good morning to all of you, and thank you all for attending our webinar. I will share some recent policy developments in the Philippines and their implementations and implications in the near term. The first one is the so-called Mandanas ruling of the Supreme Court. Acting on the petitions of Governor Mandanas and others, the Supreme Court on April 10, 2019, has ruled that the base for the computation of local government shares in the national government revenues should not be limited to internal revenues, as has been the policy and practice since 1992, but to all national tax revenues. That is, from income taxes to VAT, from revenues earned from national wealth, to trade taxes and custom duties and franchise fees. The ruling will be implemented for the first time next year. In 2022, the local governments can expect a revenue windfall. Their national tax revenue allotment, which replaces the internal revenue allotment, will be around 986 billion pesos, or roughly 21 billion US dollars. This is about 145 billion pesos more than the amount due them without the Mandanas ruling. The revenue windfall is not free. It will lead to serious vertical fiscal imbalance. Anticipating this, President Rodrigo Duterte on June 1, 2021, signed Executive Order number 13, mandating all concerned national government agencies to prepare for and then implement the full devolution of certain national government functions to local governments. The Executive Order and the subsequent Joint Memorandum Circular number 2021-1 of the Department of Budget and Management and the Department of Interior and Local Governments are notable for two things. For they show now that we're seriously taking the lessons that we learned from the past 30 years. First, there is now a longer preparation time. National agencies and local governments are mandated to draw up the respective devolution transition plans. Included in these plans will topics like or issues like organizational issues and staffing issues and local revenue mobilization and forecasting. This is far from the Big Bang approach we adopted in 1991-92. Second, there is now a committee on devolution, whose members are key cabinet secretaries and executive officers of the different leagues of local governments. This committee is tasked to manage the devolution process. Again, this is unlike the ad hoc devolution unit of the Department of Health in 1992-95. That ad hoc committee was like a fish out of water, since it was made to deal with health service delivery problems in a new fiscal, administrative, and political setting at the local level. It would be interesting to see in the coming months the details of the different transition plans and how the committee will resolve the inevitable inconsistencies among them. Perhaps some of the most sensitive incompatibilities in local devolution transition plans will be in health. There are two reasons for this. The first reason is that health services constitutes the bulk of the devolved functions. The original devolution of health functions were not totally aligned with first principles concerning the assignment of expenditure responsibilities. To put it bluntly, we ended up having fragmented local health system. This is the situation that the Universal Healthcare Act of 2019 attempts to rectify. Among its provisions is the integration of municipal level health services and other lower level health services into a province-wide health service system. How will this be achieved on a purely voluntary basis, since the local government code bestows Full local fiscal autonomy will be a real challenge, however. In the midst of surges in COVID-19 cases, we already see local governments subtly criticizing national officials in charge of coordinating overall government pandemic responses. Perhaps local government officials are venting their frustrations since they themselves are being asked by their constituents where the vaccines are or when they are going to receive their ayudas or the cash assistance that the government provides. Because of the series of quarantine restrictions that limit work and earning activities, people increasingly become mindful of the performances of their local officials. Perhaps the pandemic made more and more people hold their officials to account, and local officials have become more responsive in the process. But do this indicate decentralization finally works in the Philippines? Perhaps a better proof would be the outcomes of the elections in 2022. May 2022. More than 300,000 local elected positions will be contested. We shall see then whether good performers will be elected or re-elected and bad performers will lose. For in the past, elections are only good at rewarding good performers, but rather ineffective in weeding out the bad ones. These are my short updates, and thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Joseph. This was very good. I did follow developments in the Philippines a little bit, so I have my questions, but I'll use the chair's prerogative to ask the first question. Let's go to Darius for Indonesia. Let's get an update on what's happening in Indonesia. Darius.
Thank you, Serdar. Good morning, everyone. So let me share my screen first. Okay, so I'm going to give an update, short update on the recent dynamic of decentralization in Indonesia. That may touch some of the crucial issues related to the way moving forward with economic recovery from the COVID pandemic. So let me show the current measure of the degree of fiscal decentralization from the expenditure side. So we can, from the chart, we can see that the fiscal decentralization has been weakening since 2017, despite the expansion of transfer that is intended to strengthen local government spending. And I guess this is a sign of moderating devolution from the fiscal side, but definitely not from the political side. Increase in central government expenditure is also explainable because it's coming from the expansion of the social safety net. The lighter gray line in the chart is the measure of relative fiscal efficiency that is constructed from the non-parametric method of the A model. It confirms a reverse correlation between fiscal decentralization and fiscal efficiency. I haven't expanded the estimation beyond 2016, but I expect of not so much change. So next, let's see the performance of local government expenditures. Growth of local government expenditures rebounded actually in 2018 and has continued in upward trend in the past 3 years. This should be a relief to the local economy since we are aware that many of the local governments still have difficulty to spend. This issue has never been so crucial than today, where local government spending is part of the stimulus to the economy as part of the recovery plan. So, survey of public services delivery show a steady improvement at the local and central government. However, the public services index of local government is still below central government, as highlighted in the red dot line. Along with this improvement, we also observe a positive development from digitalization in local public services operation and financial transaction. This trend has been more obvious actually in the past 3 years and supported the much needed reform in public services. Digitalization, particularly in the local government financial transactions, has been actually accelerated during the COVID pandemic. So we look at the data from 2000. Local governments utilize e-commerce, QR payment system, and internet banking to allow payment of taxes and charges. So Bank Indonesia itself has also been supportive to this policy as a means to increase efficiency in the financial systems. To some extent, digitalization of public services, operation, and transactions also play a role in improving perception towards local government performance, transparency, and accountability. Next, we will look at the challenges faced by local government from the revenue side, which is due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So growth of the central government transfer has been lower than average in the past 5 years and recorded a negative growth for the first time in 2020 due to budgetary allocation to cover national health spending. As a result, we can see here that the gap between transfer and central government's expenditure is expected to reach the highest level in 2021. The COVID pandemic also has constrained the capability of local government to generate their own revenue that are mainly still based on consumption taxes and charges. In 2020, local government own revenue drops by about 28% on average, and the regional loan program has been more than double in 2020 and 2021, which is used to cover deficit financing and cash flow shortage. So what does it mean to local government spending? It may further impact their capability to spend with limited fiscal capacity. So moving forward, I think first there should be a consideration to expand local tax base in introducing incentive innovatively. Utilizing the benefit of digitalization is necessary. We think it's important to capture larger base of consumption taxes for local government revenues, since the degree of fiscal decentralization from the revenue side is quite low in Indonesia. Second is also to link the incentive structure of decentralization with structural reform. Among the key initiatives is to suggest local tax incentive for priority sectors in the respective region with the conditionality of a future tax levy. So I guess this is also in line with the suggestion for the conditional transfer in the future. And the last one is to push decentralization reform with a focus on fiscal efficiency or productivity of spending. This will have a long-term impact on how well public services delivery and determine the strength of decentralization in the future. Thank you, and back to you, Sakar.